Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Our conversation today is going to be very focused on realizing ROI with Agentic AI. You have attended many sessions in the event between yesterday and today. I'm sure Agentic AI is something you have heard again and again at ITC. Today, what's going to make this session different from the others is we are going to introduce to you demonstrations, case studies that are actually running in production using agents, where are insurers, brokers, and companies like Google seeing the value coming out of agentic AI within their ecosystem, and how it all comes down to realizing the right benefits from agents. We are going to be here for the next 90 minutes unless we close early. First half hour of our discussion is going to be centered around the evolution of agentic AI. An example, and I'm going to call an esteemed customer of ours who we have been working in an agentic solution for some time now. He's going to come here, talk about the need of that use case for brokers specifically. And then we are going to show you a demonstration of an active agentic AI solution that is running in production. Once we have established that, I'm going to invite my esteemed panel here on the stage. Joining Alejandro and I, we will have Larissa Nigro from Google, who is an insurance specialist. We are going to have Bharat Chadpure, who is an esteemed customer of ours, working very closely with business teams on a commercial carrier side. We are going to do detailed introductions as I invite them. And we are also going to have BK, Bhaskar Kalita, who is the Financial Services and Insurance Business Unit Head here at Quantiphi. On that note, excited to get started. Hope everybody can hear me fine. All right, I see thumbs up. So many familiar faces in the audience. Thank you again for joining us. On that note, let's get started. So first, we are going to talk to you about the evolution of AI agents. When AI came into the market, it has evolved the type of activities AI can do. First step was single task AI. Very specific if, then, else kind of statements where the AI had very binary outputs with regards to how it operates or does a specialized single task. For example, if you have integrated an AI to your mailbox and somebody said congratulations, the AI will fail to understand what was the intent behind that email or how should I move forward. It'll just push it to your spam folder without taking any action or predictions on it. Then we moved into the second leg, which was multitask AI. A very good example is OCR. AI started recognizing texts in your images, in your videos, understanding intent. But then again, the limitation in this phase was it could only read certain types of fonts. It could only read when text is aligned in a certain way, etc. Then we moved to the next leg of AI, which was deep learning AI. This AI was trained on zillions of driving scenarios. It could do way more than if else. It could do way more than just simple predictions. It could understand the intent, but still there was a limitation with regards to the number of decisions it can make. One example here would be the AI that you see in self-driving cars. It can do only so much on the road a few years back, and it was trained on vision models. Then came the LLM world. This is when, transformers came into the market. Companies like us started deploying transformers in our customer ecosystem. LLMs gave AI the power to understand natural language and make deductions on top of what it is reading, seeing, understanding, and analyzing. This was the world where we were talking about specialized LLMs, things like Gemini, Claude, which are end-to-end doing natural language processing. Then came our world of AI agents. How is it different? Now, AI can not just understand the scenario. These are multimodal. They can use toolkits. They can go and present a video to a customer that is aligned to the intent of the customer. They can bring back necessary information and take decisions in the right transparency. We have moved in a very short span of time from AI that can suggest information to AI that can make decisions on your behalf in the right guardrails, under the right compliance, and with the right transparency. On that note, I would like to take an example of evolution of self-driving cars. To simplify it, how did the AI enhancement in the market can be correlated to how self-driving cars have evolved around us. I myself am a serious veteran of Tesla Autopilot, have seen the journey for the last 4 years, experienced it myself. So everything I'm going to talk to you now is coming from my personal experience. I also see faces in the audience who are users of Tesla Autopilot, so I'm sure you'll be able to relate to me when I talk to you about this. First stage of self-driving cars was no automation. We did everything. We decided when to speed, when to slow down, when to take a turn, when to switch lane, where should I be so that I can catch an exit, aspects like that. The next was feed swap. You were getting cruise control. If your car is moving, the car in front of you slows down, the AI is able to detect that it's my turn to slow down or speed up basis the speed of the traffic. So you're not using your legs, but you're using all other sensory organs like your hands, your eyes, your ears, everything else. Then came the era of partial automation, which was hands-on as well. You didn't have to steer your car. If there is a turn coming up, the car would steer itself, follow the lane, switch lane basis what it is observing around it. Then came two legs, and I'm going to talk about these together. Eyes off and the attention off, even though in personal vehicles today you have the right kind of controls and security where you cannot look away from the road. But the advancement that happened in the AI at the back is, even if you were not looking, the AI would take you to your destination. It could handle 99% of complexities that you face on the road, and it can take you from your source to your destination without you having to do anything. Last came the driverless cars. I saw many of these running around in Vegas as well. I'm sure some of you have had the opportunity to take one of these cars either in the Bay Area or in Vegas. Today, we are living in the driverless construct where inside the car, there are sensors, there are cameras connected to a call center somewhere. An AI agent is driving you around. It is taking commands from you about your destination and taking you to the right place. But everything that the AI does or communicates with you, even your behavior is being monitored at a call center somewhere, and they are engaging with you to correct either the AI or yourself if something goes astray. That's where we are with the AI. You can think of Agentic as self-driving cars. It'll do all the same activities that your human workforce would have done, but now you're upskilling your workforce to do more than just digitizations, more than just cross-data validations. You're giving them the roles of governors. They are only governing the decisions that the AI is making in the right constructs, etc. Now, as we talk about this, doing agentic implementations out there, and I'm going to talk to you about examples in the insurance space where customers are actually running agents in production. Do they call it just agent? Do they call it a conversational agent? But they are running in production. As I talk to you about the use cases that are being implemented in production, especially this year, we are in November of 2022, ChatGPT was released in the world. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir when I say this. The ChatGPT era taught us user experience supersedes everything else. I had an AI sitting at the back of a chat screen that can respond to all my questions, that can give me summarizations, that can help me how to deal with difficult people, what kind of email should I write so that I can get through to them right, aspects like that. So having said that, all these implementations require grounding. Any agentic implementation requires grounding. How do we do it? There is an evolution of a concept called evals. in doing agentic implementations who are continuously grounding the decisions your agent is making sure that it is highlighting to a human reviewer anytime something overly complicated or it's trying to make a decision out of its alley. As we discuss this, while the way we do agentic implementations has changed from traditional AI implementations, the skills have also changed. Typical skills that are now doing agentic implementations are evals communities. Application developers have become very, very powerful within the ecosystem because until 2 years back, we were designing human in the loop systems that had AI plugins. Today, we are designing agentic systems that have human in the loop or human over the loop access. That's the change that it has done in the market. We are now seeing a lot of agentic software designers becoming more and more relevant as these use cases are scaling. But on that note, let me talk to you about some real world examples where agentic AI has been implemented in our domain, which is insurance, in production. There are already numbers out there in the market. Now, what are the places where insurers are implementing agentic solutions? In North America, one of the large digital insurance companies, they have agents running in production that are binding low-risk submissions, that are also adjusting low-risk claims in less than 3 minutes with the right type of transparency and near zero human touch. Humans are involved in only overseeing what kind of decisions these agentic bots are making in production. The next example, one of Europe's largest insurer, 80% of their customer requests are handled by agentic AI, where a conversational agent is talking to the customer, understanding their intent, answering queries, and routing it to a live agent in case the customer is insistent on talking to a real agent. The next example, one of the major Asia Pacific insurer, all their product planning and data analysis recommendations are coming from agentic AI, where agents are not just looking at what are other companies and competition doing in the market, it is also evaluating the history of the company and recommending changes, which is then being consumed by executives to make next decisions. Last but not the least, and this is one of the more powerful examples because actuaries at the end of the day were first data scientists in our universe. They were the first people who were modeling, doing a lot of maths, recommending ideas. There's this company, a UK-based insurer, that has implemented an actuarial agent that is doing all similar activities, and the actuarial team is upskilled to perform different types of jobs on how to ground the AI, how to make decisions basis what the AI is recommending. So these are some examples of what's happening in the market with agentic AI. As I talk to you about these examples, it's also important to understand how agents are implemented in production. It is definitely not one size fits all. There are different types of agentic implementations. The first one being a single orchestrator agent. What is this format of agentic implementation? This is a single boss agent that uses a series of tools in the right sequence to complete a linear task. One agent that is doing step 1, then step 2, then step 3, then step 4. Typical examples in our world that you can correlate to in where you would implement a single orchestrator agent would be routing advisor agents. That's one of the typical examples out there. Extraction agent, you can use script agents, that is just extracting information in the way you like from your paper trail, from other company information. Your payment readiness agent, all activities are done, an agent is orchestrating, are all my points checked? Can I go ahead and take the payment? It follows step 1 with the customer, step 2, then goes and updates all your core systems with the payment information. Last comes endorsement agents. These are another typical type of agent that will be a single orchestrator agent. Now, single orchestrator agent, very good at specialized tasks. You can think of one outcome of these agents and you can implement them. The other format of agentic implementation is hierarchical agents. What are hierarchical agents? There is a top level manager in the agentic universe, and it breaks down specific goals for the subtask agents. So it's continuously delegating a part of its work as a subtask to another agent or a specialized worker agent, bringing the information back and then making a decision. This is a second type of deployment where the typical use cases that you can think about is validator and corrector agent. Now, this is something we are already doing in production, and we will have Alejandro join us in a little bit where we will talk about some use cases. But this is an agent where one agent is driving what every other agent does. It's bringing back the information. It's making corrections, validating, and doing everything on the fly. The other example is compliance watchtower agent. Compliance watchtower agent, like any other compliance officer, collects information from multiple departments, groups of people, analyzes if this is the right information, and signs off that, okay, this is compliant, QA audit is complete, aspects like that. Next one is pricing and quoting agent. This again requires a master agent to work with many smaller specialized agents to be able to complete its task. Another one is FNOL intake agent. All these agentic implementations require hierarchical deployment. Next comes swarm agent. What's different in this kind of deployment? Every agent is a peer to the other. No single agent is making the final call. Every agent is collaborating with each other. That pretty much means all of them are taking care of different parts of the value chain. All their information is combined together to make the final decision. And last but not the least is a hybrid agent. Now, this one is a combination of swarm and hierarchy. Swarm, where all agents are working peer-to-peer, and hierarchy, where all of them are sending information to one boss agent that is making the final decision based on the different activities or information it has received from other agents. So 4 different constructs of how agents are deployed. On your screen, you see the different types of insurance use cases where they are being used in the market today and how they are adding to the ROI of a company. Now, on that note, a lot about agentic AI, use cases, formats in which they are deployed, etc. We want to show you some demonstrations. In this demonstration, everything that I spoke about until now, where we are talking about evolution from end-to-end manual tasks to agentic implementations, which have given the market the speed, accuracy, and transparency to perform agentic tasks, I'm going to request my esteemed customer Alejandro from Marsh and McLellan to come here and join us. As you come here, Alejandro, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the team, but please.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Arunima, thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Alejandro Zárate. I am a managing director at Marsh and McLennan, and I work in data strategy for global placement. And one of the things I'm in charge of is data acquisition. And in this case, we have been working with Quantiphi in order to figure out how we can get data from loss runs, which is what we are going to talk about today.
So on that note, as we move into demonstration for our audience, Alejandro, loss run plays a very important part of our business. It's something that every broker, every carrier cares about. It's the truth of our industry, where all claims have happened. If you can take a couple of minutes to explain to our audience, how does a broker look at loss runs? What type of values you see, and what are the criticalities, complexities, and challenges with digitizing loss runs?
Well, I think that's a great question, especially because I think we're in a moment in the industry where we can have access to information we could not use before. I mean, I don't know how many of you are here working for brokers, especially, or insurers. You get submissions, we get loss runs, or we get quotes. I mean, we get all kinds of documents, right? And now we're in a moment in the industry we can actually start to exploit all that data. a few years ago, we made an analysis in Marsh. How many of our data was actually structured and how much of our data was just in, let's say, unstructured, let's put it, documents and all kind of things, right? We found that more than 95% of our data was actually in documents, that we were structuring a good amount, but if we compare to all the data that is not the structure, it was still very small. So this is a great opportunity we have today, right? And what we'll start to see is that we will have probably more data, more structured data, if we decide to approach this from the point of view of structuring the data, that we will be able to work with. I mean, I think the challenge will be to consume the data. I think next year, probably people will be talking here about how to consume all this data that we can access with these new technology capabilities, right?
Thank you for that, Alejandro. What has made our engagement very successful over the years is the speed at which we have been able to deliver this information from unstructured data to yourself for further downstream processes. What I want to do today, Alejandro, is talk to our audience about the journey AI has taken, or we have taken, in digitizing loss runs. Gone are the days when everything was done manually. Someone was sitting with their keyboards, typing every single detail in a loss run, mapping into the right information, etc. Then we went into the AI era, where we had fancy models working, extracting information, but still there was a lot of validation and correction that a human had to do. So they had to click through each and every loss run. But what makes us successful in the speed of delivering this information is certain decisions the AI being able to make, transparently communicate to a governance body what decisions it has made. So if you're okay, would love to move to the demonstration, but any feedback before we get started?
Yeah, well, I would, I mean, this was a very, very long question, but I think in general, probably 2 years ago, no one was thinking about having the possibility to extract loss runs and put that in a structured database. I think that was not even an option. I remember I have been with Marsh almost 15 years, and I remember talking a few years ago about that possibility, how we can better understand claims, how we can better mine this data and create value from it. And it was clear in that moment that doing this manually was like, yeah, you could try, and we were probably being able to capture a good amount, a good sample, let's say, and a statistically significant sample, but never having the big picture, right, or the complete picture. Now I think we have that possibility at scale, and I think that goes to speed, right? That today, if you want, I don't know, if you want to structure hundreds of thousands of loss runs in literally hundreds of templates, from the human point of view, will be impossible, right? I mean, there is no team big enough to do this at scale, right? So I think that's one of the great values of leveraging technology as the one you guys have developed, and allowing organizations to have access to this data. I used to have a boss who always used to tell me, you need to start with the end in mind, right? So that's what we are doing here. Our end in mind is how we can exploit it, how we can make better use of it, and obviously in line with the business strategy. So speed in this case, it has been a tremendous factor for success.
So well said, Alejandro, and thank you for the kind words. On that note, let's show our audience 3 hops that happened in the industry in something as, as important as loss runs. Demo 1. This is an example where if a human receives a loss run and they have to digitize, how would they do it? They'll open 2 screens. They'll look at the data that has come in the loss run. In this case, there is a PDF document where all information is listed. Somebody is copy pasting every single information from the PDF. Now, that's not the end. Every loss run will come with its own column names, with its own way of, representing the data to you. There is a lot of relationship in this information. Somebody is manually keying in, establishing those relationships, renaming columns because your core systems are going to consume this loss run data in a specific format. And somebody is also manually making sure that it aligns with your reference data. For example, if you look at a company as A, And there were 3 loss runs that came from AA1, AA2, AA3. Then somebody is manually mapping that all this goes under the format A within my core system. Now, this was the manual world. One loss run would have taken almost 1 hour for a human to complete end to end. Then we go into the next leg of AI, which is where we designed human in the loop systems with AI plugins. If we can switch to the second demo, please. Now, this is our second progress in the loss runs universe. We call it the AI way. You had applications that were developed for humans where one can see all the different loss runs coming in. They'll be able to upload. The visual that you are seeing is from a product called Dociphi from Quantiphi. This was some time back when somebody would log into that Dociphi, start looking at extracted information. Now, what was tricky about this ecosystem? Even if the AI delivered 98% accurate data, somebody had to go in and validate the 2% delta. The AI couldn't predict it because of nuances it has not seen. And this was a world where, there were large language models, they were hallucinating, there was a need for grounding. So a human touch was required with every loss run. Now, if we talk about companies of the sizes of Marsh, who probably have 60% of the world's insurance data, the number of processes that need to be done to make the entire information 100% accurate was high, where humans had to touch every single loss run that comes, make sure if the AI is making any wrong decisions in terms of mapping, correct those mappings. These tools were very advanced in making sure that there are minimal clicks or edits from the user, but that 2% predicated somebody to look at every single component that was being extracted. Now let me take you to the world that we are in today. How will loss runs be digitized, are being digitized today and in the future? Now, before we start that demonstration, there is one thing you would have heard as part of agentic implementations is agentic is going to change the way business processes run. This demo might give you a small example of what that means. Human processors would access loss run data just to correct that data. Let's switch on to demonstration 3.
Hi everybody, I am James. I am an account manager looking to review loss run documentation for policy renewals. I want to ensure I have full visibility on risks as well as the loss history corresponding to it. I now log into Dociphi, and here is where I am able to see my autonomous agent buddy already processed files for me and is providing me some proactive assistance regarding what has been done and some top highlights. So, as we can see here, the Loss Run Hub dashboard is able to provide to me that there are about 1,000 loss runs already processed within the last 24 hours, all automatically, without any intervention. Some insights highlighted here cover top loss drivers, top carriers corresponding to it, as well as some indication of emerging risk trends, error hotspots that the corrector agent went ahead and modified. It talks about regions, as well as an alert for me to go in and review about 7 applications that have been flagged. Should I have any further questions, I can, of course, go into the playground to play around and ask more questions as well. Here is a neat view where I can look at some of these KPIs across the agents by application and also by fields. I'm able to see that distinction here as well. Now, all of these insights are available to me. I can now go into the specific reviewer alert, get into the specific screen where here I'm again able to see that historically, we had a total number of applications come through, 95% of which the agent itself closed end to end. About 5% required human intervention to make further edits. As you can see within the dashboard, there are those 7 critical that are highlighted here. Let me deep dive into one of these and see what I have to do. Again, I have information present here that of the 235, 220 are cleared out. I no longer need to take a look at it. 15 were not found, and 15 is something that needs my intervention. So I'm going to go ahead and look into that as well. You can see all of this is ready for validation. It's giving me a reason as to why I should be looking at them. I'm taking a quick glance at only those 5 fields, while the others remain corrected, and I do not have to do any edits to it. So I can quickly glance over these, make some changes as required for specific fields, and then I'm done. That's when I hit complete, and I'm back here, and it was completed within a matter of minutes. Once completed on this dashboard, and I have any further questions that I may want to ask on certain trends, let me get to that part of my job next. What I can do here is click on my AI playground. I can type in a question corresponding to a trend. Let's see what my assistant buddy has to offer here. It's able to provide me a graph of the last 24 months of data and able to identify one unstable point. Let me quickly look at the data as well. Here as well, there is one month, which was the month of September, that saw that spike. Let me go in and ask a follow-up question to see if that spike was specific to a certain event or a certain insurer. Let me go ahead and do that. And here I am able to see the details that there was a specific insurer that led to that spike. And it was an isolated event, while there were few that were seasonal and led to a smaller spike there. So here I have processed data corresponding to loss runs, as well as able to derive insights from current and historical workloads.
Amazing. What we wanted to show you is how agentic AI implementations are going to upskill our communities to do more with data, to think about the complex patterns and trends instead of sitting at their desk, digitizing, copying numbers somewhere, or monitoring an AI's work. This is the future of very specialized agent that is focused on just loss runs. Imagine the massiveness of the solution should you have specialized agents for every part of your submissions or policy checking or other process flows, the throughput and speed and insights it's going to give your knowledge workers on your own data. That's where we conclude our demonstration. On that note, we are very happy to share with you, Quantiphi has been awarded a patent recently. We've been doing loss runs with transformer models for many years now, for that matter, even before it became a general trend in the market. Recently, Dociphi has been awarded that patent for the unique way in which we digitize loss run information. And now we are complementing it with agents to make the process whole. The barcode is going to lead you to the patent on your screen. Awesome. On that note, we are going to move to the next leg of our conversation. We have some esteemed customers here, including Alejandro, with whom we are going to talk about value realization or ROIs from agentic implementations, which part of our universes can be agentified, which ones are the low-hanging fruits, how are business teams looking at agents, aspects like that. On that note, let me invite our panelists. Bharat, if you can come join us, and we will do quick introductions here briefly. Bharat is from CNA, and we are going to do the introduction shortly. Our next panelist, Larissa Nigro. She is an insurance specialist at Google Cloud. We have created a very versatile panel for you today, where we have the largest cloud company, where we have, customers from carrier side and broker side. Joining them is Bhaskar Kalita. Bhaskar heads the financial services and insurance business unit at Quantiphi, doing a lot of AI, data, and agentic work for customers across the globe. On your screen is a quick introduction of our diverse panel group. If we can do a quick mic check, and if you can please introduce yourself to the audience today.
Check. Arunima, thanks for the opportunity. Bharat Shadatpuri, VP of Analytics at CNA. Been in this role past 3 years, helping really CNA on the transformation journey we are on to modernize our data ecosystem. And AI, call it a disruptor or an opportunity, is what we are dealing actively on a day-to-day basis to see how it helps us to accelerate the agenda we have to modernize our data ecosystem and both data and analytics ecosystem. Thanks.
So thank you to Quantiphi. That was probably the most comprehensive overview I have seen about the agentic journey in this entire conference. So I'm from Google. I was blown away. I've always been impressed by Quantiphi. And thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this panel. So my name is Larissa Nigro. I'm an insurance principal within Google Cloud. I've been with Google for about 6 years now. And prior to that, I've served the insurance industry in one capacity or another for over 15 years. So my passion has been technology and insurance, and I'm excited for the conversation today.
Thank you, Larissa. My name is BK. I manage financial services and insurance at Quantiphi. Been here for the last 6.5 years. Prior to that, I've spent almost a couple of decades, especially in financial services and insurance. Exciting times. We started our journey, modernizing insurance value chain using AI for the last several years, but the last 2.5 years has been an extreme roller coaster. Would love to share our experiences, all the battle scars that we have, and then take the conversation forward. Thanks.
Awesome. Please welcome our good-looking panelists, and we are excited about the discussion. Amazing. I will be very crisp in what we want to do in the next 50 to 60 minutes. The aim of this discussion is going to be centered around going beyond the hype and the buzzwords. How are companies realizing benefits or ROIs from agentic implementation, or what's the vision? Where do they see 2 years down the line what the tech can do? As a moderator, my job will be to focus on real-world transformations and real-world impacts that is being made in organizations. And we would want the audience to walk away with how to move from exploration to reality. So in the end, we are going to have a Q&A session. We're going to love for you to ask us and our panelists the questions that come to your mind so that we can keep this entire session interactive. I'm going to cover our discussion today in certain parts. In the first part, I want to focus on setting the context pursuant to your ecosystem for our audience. So with that, in trying to make sense of agentic AI, my first question is for you, Alejandro. From a broker's perspective, what do you think is fueling the growth or consideration of agentic AI within your ecosystem? And how are you looking at it? Are you looking at it as a more performance improvement kind of a tool? Or are you noticing that this technology will be considered in hard problems like risk advisory models and things that set you apart as a company in the market? That first question is for you.
Thank you, Ronima. Well, the way I look at this in 3 levels. The first level, of course, is, and I think it's the most natural when we start to look to this technology, is operational efficiency, right? How we can make our operations faster and better, and how we can serve better our clients. I think that's the very first instinct that we all have in terms of the use of AI in general and, of course, agents. And I see a tremendous potential there to serve this, what we call these vertical use cases, when you have very specialized tools in which the AI and the agents can support the business with different levels of autonomy. That's the first one. The second one I see has to do with business development, how we can improve our yield, or how we can improve our sales, and how we can do a better matching between risk and capital, right? We as brokers, that's our job. We try to find the best capital for our risks. And I see a tremendous opportunity there in order to better understand our book of business and provide better support to our clients. The third level is what you were mentioning, like what other services we can provide, like around advisory or around risk consulting. I think that's, I think that's how we will be progressing. I think we are today, and I think most organizations are in this stage of looking to operational efficiency. I think we are starting to look also in terms of how we can improve our margins and how we can create more value for clients. And I think eventually we'll start to move also to other services and other possibilities.
That's amazing. Well said, Alejandro. And the point that you made that, at center of your business is the idea of servicing the customer right. I think that's what makes Marsh the mammoth it is in our industry. The way you leverage data to service your customers is unheard of. So that's very insightful. Thank you. Next, I'll call in Larissa yourself into the conversation. Google has been at the cutting edge of AI for times since AI has been in the market. We have engaged extensively in, giving customers the benefits of AI. We have seen that in this hype cycle, to be able to make agentic AI a true inflection point, it's not just about having the right cloud infrastructure, but it's also the ability of being able to integrate to multiple parts of your business. So you can bring all that information together and enable an agent in making those decisions. How is Google differentiating itself in this space of agentic deployments in production for customers, giving them the right ROI? And for lack of better words, how are you thinking about being on the leading and bleeding edge of this AI journey?
Well, thank you for the question. In terms of the inflection point, I'll address that one first. I mean, it's really powered by the convergence of cloud infrastructure, of course, these mature models, but equally important are these tools, and these tools that allow you to bring your AI to your data. And so we don't want to embark on multi-year journeys to centralize all of your data, because all you're doing is you're delaying your AI and your agentic strategy 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years out, right? So that's not where you need to start. What you need to do is think about pre-built connectors, and this is one of the things that Google brings to bear. Pre-built connectors so that you can go to Salesforce, to SharePoint, so that you can bring your AI to your data so that you can get rapid results. What makes Google unique, and I thank you so much for the question, because I could talk about this all day long, but I'll try to be brief. I joined Google because I am a technology snob, and I believe that Google really does have the best technology on the planet. And that is anchored in our products. We've got 6 products with over 2 billion consumers monthly. And that is our secret sauce when it comes to our AI strategy. We have over 3,000 researchers within DeepMind and Google Research who are at the forefront of these innovations. And what we've done since 2022 is we have shortened the time frame from what we're researching to what we're putting in the hands of our enterprise customers. So has anyone seen the Project Astra videos, if you're all familiar with those, right? So we have these concepts that come out of DeepMind, and what's mind-blowing to me is within months, I'm testing that internally at Google, and we're releasing it to our enterprise customers. So what makes Google unique, number one, is that we're testing it at the largest scale possible because it's embedded within our core consumer products. Number two, we're the only AI data and analytics company that is optimized at every single level, right? So we have our chips, we have our infrastructure, we have our first-party models. We can optimize that all the way to the phone. And so when you think about the fully integrated stack, fully vertically integrated stack that allows you to optimize for price performance at every layer, nobody else can do that, right? Our competitors are partnering, right? But they're not going to have the price performance that we have. And that's why you see Google at the leaderboard in terms of models. But it's not just about the models. It's about an open ecosystem where you can take a Salesforce agent, a ServiceNow agent, a first-party Google agent that you built, and then you can orchestrate that in an open platform and an open ecosystem. Because the reality is, I walked the floor today, and if I were in your shoes, that was slightly terrifying. Because all I could see was like death by 1,000 agents, and APIs and tools and connectors, and like, where do you begin? So I think the most important thing to think about is how are you going to manage and orchestrate these agents? What are your protocols? I actually asked one of the partners today, oh, are you using the MCP protocol or the agent-to-agent protocol? And they said they're not. And I said, what do you mean you're not using a protocol? Like, you have to use a protocol because you don't want to be locked in to a closed system with your agent strategy. And so I'm so proud of what we've done at Google because we've really been leading in this arena. We open source the agent-to-agent protocol in partnership with Microsoft, in partnership with AWS, with ServiceNow, with Salesforce. And this is really where we shine in terms of giving you choice and flexibility at every layer.
Wow, you said that so well. Nobody says it better. I think the enlightening point, and you said it so beautifully, Google AI is optimized at every step. I think that's where the beauty lies. You are not in that imbalance that a part of is better, but the other part is not so good. But that balance that Google has struck in optimizing every step of the way just speaks a lot to sheer knowledge of doing this AI at scale. Amazing. On that note, Bharat, I'll bring you into the conversation. You have been leading the business intelligence and advanced analytics engagements with the CNA business team for a long time now. You are, I'm sure, on a daily basis hearing from your business partners on what else do they want. Everything that is happening with AI and Agentic, how do they want to consume this information, or how do they want to really get to the core of the information at every granularity? So my question to you is, what are you hearing from the business teams about how do they want to think about business intelligence or advanced analytics in this realm? And what do you think are the low-hanging fruits that can be tapped into without having to do, agentic AI on all the data that you have within the company or outside the company?
Thank you, Arinma, for that question. Just to set the context, we are at the peak of modernization. We are modernizing our legacy applications. We are modernizing our data infrastructure. From an business intelligence perspective, we are also consolidating our BI ecosystem. We have 7-8 tools that we use today. Really, the goal is to take those baby steps. You talked about the evolution of autopilot of the call. I think we are at the very level 0 of that journey. We feel once we clear the path and consolidate the business intelligence tool, that will allow to reduce the noise and allow us to manage the change better. So we really are focused towards migrating towards the likes of Power BI, the likes of Tableau, ensuring that these are the tools that companies like Salesforce and Microsoft have strategic AI investments, so we don't have to do investments on our part on the business intelligence tool. So that's step A. The second step would be AI for BI. This is where we leverage the business intelligence tool and enable the AI capabilities, really to allow our users to spend more time on analyzing the data and not finding data, right? To be able to converse with data, like chat with data. That's the beauty of generative AI, that you can use normal human-like language to go do that. Building reports productivity is a big thing. We want developers, whether sitting in the users department or in the analytics and data space, we want to make sure that we use AI there. That would be a level 2. Agentic AI is after that. I love the use case of the loss run. We have many versions of loss runs, and if Marsh get a request from Marsh, the agentic AI use case could be Alejandro is sending an email to CNA. Our agentic AI recognizes that, understands what customer they require the data from, fire the data, extract the output, and send it back. That's the vision that we want to have it. So it's a journey, Arunima, for us.
So well said. And the part that is absolutely lovable in what you said, Bharat, is you're focusing on setting that foundation that allows you to implement Agentic with the right integrations, with the right conversations happening across multiple specialized agents talking to each other, But setting up that foundation becomes very, very important and relevant. And you are taking that journey of making sure that your foundations are right so that tomorrow, if you are going into production with this, it's just going to be a simple activity of connecting the dots across the board. BI for AI, AI for BI.
AI for BI
Oh my
equals
God,
CI.
love that phrase.
I read it somewhere.
I love that phrase. Awesome. On that note, BK, I'm going to call you into the conversation. You're working with a variety of financial services and insurance customers. We are going to focus on insurance today. How do you think agentic AI will reshape the operations side of the insurance business, right? We spoke about the concept of the transition from human in the loop to human over the loop. We are also observing that business processes inherently are changing the way they operate, how they look at their data, what they are trying to look into the data, etc. How do you think this will reshape the operations part of the business, at scale in the next 3-4 years?
Great question. So I'm going to talk about the various possibilities in 2 dimensions. Number one, when I think about the insurance value chain, I look at journeys. You have a quote journey, which is basically you are looking at a risk, identifying the risk, its different nuances, in making sure that the insured gets the coverage they need and they deserve. That's a quoting journey. Then comes the next layer, which is the policy journey, right? Where you have the policy and you follow your customer throughout the life cycle. It can cover various life events, it can cover various changes, but there's a policy journey which includes, endorsements, etc. So there's a journey. And then finally, the moment of truth, you have a claims journey, right? Whenever there is an incident that happens which needs the right coverages, you follow that journey. So that's one way to think about the insurance value chain. The other way, when you think about data movement, you have your core systems, you have your insurance core systems, and you have processes upstream where data hits the core. And then you have processes downstream where data comes out of the core and you take care of various operational needs. So if you look at this whole landscape, I think the journeys will get absolutely impacted and should get impacted from being ability to provide a quote with minimal interventions. I mean, for example, I think the industry benchmark for a commercial quote is still in weeks. It can absolutely come down to days, if not minutes, where, as I think Bharat gave a good example of an email coming from Alejandro for a quote, and you're able to process it, identify the information, look at historical data, look at loss runs, and ability to generate a quote right there and providing it absolutely helps. So that quote journey will get severely impacted. Policy journey, especially from a customer standpoint, in terms of how do you track customer life events, how are you able to address their needs before even the customer is thinking about it. I mean, and bear in mind, insurance is something that you don't touch and feel every day. You do a renewal in 6 months or a year. You don't touch. It's not like a banking operation. So you absolutely need to keep reminding your customers about what's out there. And then finally, the moment of truth, claims. I mean, I think there's so much opportunity out there from doing various functions within claims. I mean, obviously, FNOL is a very simple, low-hanging fruit in terms of how you can address them. But beyond FNL, there are critical processes when it comes to SIUs, etc., where you can have an agent do a bunch of stuff. Obviously, bring a lot of efficiencies from an expense ratio standpoint, but more importantly, you are addressing your customer need. You are able to give the customer the experience they deserve. Right? So that's from a value chain standpoint. And finally, I spoke about operational needs. That's when the data leaves the core and you create a lot of operational feeds out there. And that's where agents, in data insights agents, we had a great conversation yesterday with one of our customers around data insights agents. How can you help customers use natural language to talk to your structured data? And I think that's what Bharat was alluding to with AI for BI. I mean, this is a extremely low-hanging fruit. You can get rid of a lot of ad hoc reporting, operational feeds that are being processed on a daily basis and just use natural language. So those are some of the various talking points, pilots, and production use cases that we are seeing right now.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for enunciating the different journeys and the role of operations and how everything will evolve. I was in this conversation with another esteemed customer who was, of course, is the strategic visionary for one of the top 10 brokers in the world. And the statement he made was, you know what, Arunima? 2 years down the line, my operation teams are going to look very different. That's where we are. So I think that makes a lot of sense when you're talking about, changing the way your operations teams operate, the speed and accuracy at which you're doing the business and the journeys. Just enunciate that. Amazing. On that note, I'm going to move on to becoming a little more specific about where is agentic AI today creating value. It is very important as we are setting up the foundations, as we are optimizing AI at every stage, as we are rethinking operations. What becomes really important to know is, where do I start? What are my low-hanging fruits? Where the adoption will be higher versus which parts I'll have to do more aggressive work to be able to get to the business, for them to be able to, in small parts, unlearn certain aspects of procuring data or looking at the data and adopting a much smarter, intelligent agent that can make their life better, right? So on that note, my next set of questions are going to be in that space. My first question is for you, Bharat. Talking about agentic AI implementations, which parts of business you feel will be early adopters of this super intelligent autonomous AI versus which parts of business could be a longer tail? Now, we don't know what the next 3 years has in it for us, but what do you think is, how are you envisioning this journey of adoption within the business teams?
Sure, Anuma. I think you both, BK, and you kind of alluded it. The low-hanging fruits for AI is productivity and efficiency, right? Insurance, commercial insurance specifically, it is a lot of time that our operations team, they spend to process a policy or even claims operations to process a claim. That's the sweet opportunity for AI to go and help humans to expedite with the outcome. The more faster we are processing, companies, careers like CNA can really increase their quote ratio and bind ratio, converting, like finding time for humans so that they are able to process more and ultimately have that impact on the top line and bottom line. Where I feel AI will take more time, insurance is the business of decisions, right? We are making decisions when we are underwriting policies, we are making decisions, we are paying out the loss. I, as a human myself, if I stand myself in my customer shoes, I become very uncomfortable having like AI and a machine making a decision on how much the payout of a claim should be. That will make me nervous. I do think that human will be in the loop, maybe in edge cases over the loop, as you were explaining, as it relates to making that decision on should we bind, should we pay.
Yeah, makes sense. And of course, commercial insurance has a very different construct, the way you look at reserving, a claim getting paid out, etc. So that absolutely makes sense. Alejandro, allow me to bring you in at this point. You did touch upon how you are envisioning agentic AI to improve your customers' experience and also the efficiency of risk advisory. What do you think are the hotspots in this space where agentic implementations will start showing value faster than other ecosystem of a broker's business?
Well, definitely, we can think about operational efficiency. You were saying, as he was mentioning. As we talk, I have two reflections, and that relate a lot with the use cases and how we use agentic AI and generative AI in general. First of all, I think we need to really, really look at the tools, right? The agents are nothing more than, as it says, software entities, if you want to call it somewhere, that will be using tools. And I think that's where we need to start. We need to start making sure that the tools we develop perform as we want. and they provide the value and the efficiencies we are looking for. And I think that's the number one point, because let's remember that LLMs and foundational models hallucinate. That's part of their design. It's not. I hear someone tell me the other day, right? It's a feature. That's how they are conceived, right? That's like how they were born. I mean, it's part of the LLM to hallucinate the nature of the work. They try to predict what is the correct answer, but at the end of the day, it's a prediction. So I think the very first step is to really understand to what extent we can trust our tools to give us the answers we are looking for, because that's how the business impact will be achieved, right? So that's the very first point. The second point also on the agent side, right? So, and I will go to answer your question in a moment, to what extent we can trust those agents will be making the right decisions on our behalf. Because the moment we give full autonomy to an agent, we will have to take responsibility if that agent makes a mistake, right? Or pays $3 million instead of 3,000, right? So I think that's the second point. So once we have understood those two things, I think we can start to think about where could be the hotspot where I can start to release these agents and tools, right? I personally, from the industry point of view, the way I look at it is that probably we want to start with those activities where we don't have too much customer exposure, right? We can reduce our E&O, right? That we can start to think about, okay, I can start to use my tools, I can start to supervise them. Probably I will have a low level of autonomy because I need to make sure the tools work well, and start to progress on that side, right? Business analytics can be a good place to start because we use them internally, we can judge them, we know the markets, we know how markets evolve. So that could be a very good start, right? And that's where I would start, and that's my view. But I think it's really important. And there's a very last point, I'm sorry, I was forgetting. We need to understand the economics of running these models, right? Because the way we understand software today is we understand running costs, right? We understand that we have to invest in developing, and then we need to invest in using it. But the economics that relate to the use of language models, it's very, very different. I mean, the impact you can have on your operation if you do not optimize your model for token consumption can be significant. So I think that's another key point we need to take in consideration when we start to look to these tools in terms of business impact, cost, and reliability.
That's an amazing point, Alejandro, and only a technologist could say that point. Optimization of how you prompt the AI, how do you make it perform actions. And when towards the end of this panel, I do want to ask a question which is very relevant to this optimization and caching and aspects like that, and environmental aspects, but we will come there. Amazing point made. This is on the carrier and the broker side of the world. At this point, I'll bring you in, Larissa and BK. You are, I'm sure, being asked that question on a daily basis as to what's my ROI of doing something like this? How do I enunciate the benefits my business is going to see by implementing an agentic solution? Or, Google has been at the edge of platforms. You're doing some massive work there with Agent Space, with Vertex AI, everything. How are you looking at or explaining ROIs to businesses out there so that they can make that first move of moving into the universe? Yes, it's an evolving ROI landscape. You can't get the ROI for an agent tomorrow if you move into production. You have evals, they are taming it down, they are making sure it's making the right decisions, and moving forward, you start seeing ROI. But how are you passing that hurdle of explaining ROI with such implementations, and where to start?
So I'm obsessed with real, actual, quantifiable outcomes. And so in my position at Google, I have purview into many customer stories, and the ones that I tend to retell, and if you're in my last panel, you'll recognize these, are the ones that are publicly available, right? And so when we look at the opportunity for value creation, this is really about fueling growth and AI as a growth engine. And the best evidence of that right now is Verizon, right? And so Verizon uses AI to answer 95% of their questions that are coming into the service center with a research assistant. Freeing up those agents from those mundane questions has achieved a 40% increase in sales in the service center, right? So this is from Verizon. And so outcomes like that, I think, are what start to give people pause and say, this is real. Wells Fargo, 245 million customer interactions, no human touch in the last 12 months. So Wells Fargo and Verizon, they are at the forefront. They are white glove customers of Google's. So they are design partners of ours. And we collaborate very closely to get these kinds of outcomes. But to me, the proof is really in, like, can you quantify it and defend it? And so those are my two favorite examples that I just say over and over again because they're so mind-blowing. I think the other thing, so I would say, and I loved your examples, right? You gave very specific examples in underwriting, in claims. There's so much opportunity for value creation. The other one where we're seeing a lot of traction within Google is on the creative side and on the marketing side. And so how do we take a process in terms of a creative ad that could take a year, right? From concept to production of an ad is easily 12 months. Well, it's very hard to offer personalized, segmented YouTube clips, right? If it takes that long for a creative process. And that's been a blocker for many of our customers. So now it's how do we take the creative process down from a year to, we can produce videos in minutes, but how do we shorten that cycle so that you can have a target of like the pet-friendly people in New England or the pet-friendly people in California? And how do you do that at hyperscale? And then go find those customers with those affinities and get to real customer segmentation in the beginning. So I'd say the service center and the creative marketing side are where we're seeing the fastest paths to value right now.
Amazing. Love how you complement your answers with facts, Larissa. Very enlightening. Thank you. BK, if I can pass on the mic.
I hope CNA is a white glove as well. I mean, we have Google.
Amazing. Vicky, let me bring you in. Where do you think, I'll repeat the question, where do you think, how are you establishing or making customers look at ROI, and how does that journey entail in terms of convincing somebody or explaining it to them why they should be adopting this technology within their ecosystem?
Sure. So, obviously you've spoken about a bunch of real life use cases. You showed one here already. I'm going to quickly take a detour and talk about process. So what we do at Quantiphi, whenever we are engaging with customers, we have our own proprietary toolkit that enables us to first prioritize AI use cases or agentic AI use cases. And then we also have created a NPV calculator, which we take to our clients. So let me first talk about the first one, which is prioritization. This is obviously built on an industry standard framework. It's called RIVE. It's reach, impact, viability, and effort. You look at all these 4 different parameters. And this has been customized from an industry lens perspective. When you talk about reach, you talk about first look at use cases, its impact across the organization. Is it very LOB centric? Is it more horizontal? Then you go to the impact. How does it impact not only from a top line, bottom line standpoint, but you also bring in people, process, culture. You have different questions around it. And then viability is all about tech, compliance, insurance, heavily regulated. So compliance plays a big role. And then when you go, you put effort. What's the cost of doing this? So once you put all these different parameters in place, it's a detailed questionnaire. It's a toolkit that we have developed. We help customers prioritize the use cases. You get scores around it. You can plot those scores. Then comes the NPV calculator. This is again when you plot all the expenses from infrastructure, from capital expenses to run expenses. You put all those parameters in. You look at comps. You look at comps for that use case, not only within an organization, but you also look at insurtechs, MGS who are actually doing those implementations, use their comps and try to come up with a score, and you come up with a net present value. One important thing that I want to call out here is when we do these ROI calculation, it's not a one and done thing. Based on doing all this implementation, and even I have been partnering in bunch of these, an ROI calculation that you do at the start of the project will look very different when 6 months down the line. It has got different reasons to it. It has got adaptability, challenges that you see, and more importantly, the cost of technology. The cost of technology in the last 24 months have gone down drastically, as you all know. So an ROI calculation done at one point of time will not be the one that you will see eventually. So it's a continuous process. So I thought of, instead of talking about use cases, I'll talk about a process. And it's a fascinating world. My advice to everybody who's trying to think about implementation, start your ROI calculation in a process-driven way upfront and repeat it at periodic times.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, BK, especially in insurance where you need to keep a big pot of money for the moment of truth. I think it becomes and the most important parameter for any executive to think about ROI. It can be incremental ROI, but how do I go from here? So well said, everybody. Thank you. On that note, I would love to, talk to you about setting up the right foundation. And Bharat, you mentioned how the focus has been setting up the right foundation. What I want to explore with you in this segment is more about your vision. I'm sure you have a network of people within brokers, carriers, cloud, SIs, where you're talking to different people about the type of challenges they are facing in implementing such solutions. So let's harp a little bit on setting up the right foundation. Bharat, if I can bring you into the conversation, where do you think the struggle lies when moving from setting up the foundation to deploying something production grade and something that is autonomous that you're hearing in the market? Your external view, what are you hearing people talk about?
I think it is, we have to be comfortable with doing a lot of experimentation. Experimentation would allow us to understand what are the gaps that we need to solve for before we scale. Simple example. Some of the prototypes experimentation we are doing, Alejandro, you talked about hallucination, right? It's a ton of hallucination, and what we are learning is when we bring unstructured data and structured data together, the AI doesn't have the context, right? So the focus now we know is more on building that metadata and context behind the data structures, building relationships between the data structures, allowing AI to be producing the output that we expect is okay. So a lot of grounding, a lot of tuning, a lot of metadata setting. I feel like data governance and the principles of data governance is now at the forefront, right? I'm hearing a lot about, in the past times, we have taken the liberty of doing a reactive approach to data governance. We cannot do that anymore. If we need AI-ready ecosystems, then data governance needs to be step 0 or 1.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, especially if you're thinking about RAG implementations at a large scale. Having the foundation to be able to access the data, something that Larissa touched upon, to be able to monitor the decisions that it's making. And that's where we are hearing a lot about how powerful evals communities are becoming within organizations that are continuously governing the decisions the AI will make. How do you bring it down to your point, Bharat? So very well said. On that note, Larissa, allow me to bring you into the conversation. When Google thinks about, Vertex AI or agent space, how is Google thinking about these technologies such that you can quickly, at an enterprise grade, realize value, right? I mean, when we talk about an agentic implementation, we go in and say, hey, these are the 7 steps you should follow to get to that universe. However, points 3, 4, 5, you don't have to worry about. You can just use agent space to do those integrations, right? You don't have to build everything from scratch. So how do you think the future is going to look like when it comes to realizing value with toolkits that are right now in the market, like Vertex AI, agent space, and other things that Google will come up with in the near future?
Yeah, I think that, so first of all, the most important thing when we're thinking about these tools and these capabilities is how do we scale and how do we democratize? And how do we get end users comfortable with the thought of an agent, right? Like, it's a little bit scary, right? AI agents are going to do what? How do I trust them? How are they built? Who's building them? Are they accurate? And so what we do at Google is, and I'm sure many of you have unlocked a Gemini or a GPT or a large language model, and people are experimenting, right? I think you need to think about doing the same thing with an agentic platform, right? And so, I have an agent that I built, so I can speak confidently about what an agent is because I've built one firsthand. And so I think democratizing it, thinking about a platform, and this is what we do, right? We have no code, we have low code, we have all of the code that you would like to do. We have code generated, but a platform that allows for an experience at every skill level is how you democratize. And you allow, and this is what we do at Google, you allow your different users to build their own agents. And so if I can build an agent and our governance has decided that this is a viable agent that should be accessible within the enterprise, then we go through our governance process and we deploy it into the platform at scale, and it's available for everybody to use. And, it's done responsibly, it's done ethically, it's explainable, and that's just all part of the DNA of the platform.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. I do want to close on a very important question. To a certain degree, this does keep me up at night. I do have a young daughter. I am continuously thinking, what should she learn? What is the workforce of the future going to look like? Mm-hmm. I am worried about not so capable prompters firing queries that require a lot of electricity out there. I am worried about optimization or caching of information between agents, and all of this not having an impact on the quality of life of humans who are residing on our planet. After all, we have so much of Earth. Yes, we have spoken about, building servers in the space, etc. But I wanna understand from you, being at the forefront of AI talks and AI innovation in each of your areas, what is one bold prediction you will make that will reshape the insurance industry's workforce in the next few years? And one practical step that you think each one of us should take today to ensure we are moving towards a world of more sustainable AI, more resources for humans, and machines are doing the tasks that we don't want to do. So I would love to hear from each one of you in this regard, one bold prediction and one mindset we should have in today's world to move towards a more sustainable AI.
You want to start with me?
Yes.
That's a great question, Arunima. My bold prediction is probably in the next 7 to 10 years, claims and underwriting will be 75% autonomous. Humans will shift their roles. We'll be in the jobs of governing AI, monitoring AI. And that's where we have the opportunity to upskill our talent to make sure that we move them in that direction and have them control their development themselves and not worry about, oh my God, what's going to happen.
Amazing. What would be your point?
Well, from my point of view, and one of the things I try to pass to my students, I teach at Columbia University in the Masters of Insurance, is critical thinking around technology. I think that's a key point, because we are in a point that is very tempting just to trust technology and just take things as they are provided to us. But something that I think is really, really important, especially also for new generations, is to have critical thinking around technology, and if the tools are really giving you what you need and in quality, right? That's one thing. Second, in terms of industry transformation, everything will be transformed. As Andrew Ng, one of the giants of AI says, it's the new electricity. It will be everywhere. If you look around, you see electricity, AI will be there. So this is something that is here to stay and will transform our lives in all aspects, just as electricity or computers or other general purpose technologies did. So we need to start to think about how we can make sure that this new technology and capabilities how can we minimize the impact? And that's why, in a way I was mentioning before, how we make sure that we can optimize our resource consumption to minimize the impact on the planet. Because at the end of the day, every time we use AI, we consume electricity, we consume resources. And if we don't think in terms of how we can improve efficiency, minimize energy consumption, we have a problem. And this transforms also into infrastructure we have around power, right? And then there's a lot of discussion here in the US and many other countries, how we're going to be able to feed all these servers and data centers around the world with electricity, which will have also an impact. And I'm sorry going to so long into the chain, what kind of what kind of power sources we want to use in the future. It will be nuclear, or will we keep it with renewables? I mean, those are the kind of things I think we need to reflect around.
Amazing. And you made a very good point. AI today, love me or hate me, you cannot ignore me, right? It's going to be everywhere. Over to you, Larissa.
So a lot of the sessions I've sat in, there's a point of view that you can take an incremental approach or bring the AI to the existing workflow. I think my bold prediction is the carriers, the industry leaders out there who make bolder moves and move faster and reimagine will get ahead and will leapfrog. And it's interesting because obviously this is, you think about risk every single day. I think this is an area where it's time to put the chips into the middle and move fast. I think that in terms of what I would advise is make everybody in your organization AI curious and give them the ability to experiment. I have a senior in high school who's going to college next year, and I had her do an AI research project because she's not getting it in high school, right? It's don't touch AI in high school. And, it's important for her to get that language now. And so I'm trying to instill in her entrepreneurial and AI, and you'll figure the rest out.
So well said. I should also think like that. Over to you, BK.
Sure. Thank you. I'll piggyback on Bharat just said, in the next 7 to 10 years, 75% of processes will get autonomous. And that essentially ran an insurance business. So data will be king. I expect more and more OEMs providing a lot of coverages. I expect a lot, like Tesla has, Tesla insurance, you drive a Tesla, I'm sure you are probably getting their insurance. You will see that happening more often than not.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, your ability to know your customer with the help of data, with the help of AI, build faster processes, lot of new players will come into the ecosystem. Certain type of products will shift to the OEMs. And I think the carriers will potentially focus on only a certain type of coverages like liability, etc., are probably the ones where there will be specializations created. So that's how I see the product space evolving. Coming to your question around sustainability, extremely important point. At the end of the day, efficient processes will dominate, will remain. simple tactical aspects. I'll just give you a very simple example, right? I mean, GPU usage, drives consumption, drives, a lot of power getting emitted. Move some of your workloads to off-peak hours. Make sure your inferencing is distributed. You reduce those, you take those small steps as an implementer so that you can take care of those aspects. In fact, when you think about evals, especially from a policy compliance metric standpoint, have your sustainability score as one of the eval metrics right there in front. And obviously from a data center standpoint, Google is obviously taking a huge lead there from their AI-driven cooling systems where they track thousands of sensors, make sure the data center is only fetching that amount of power that's needed. So those are moves that will be extremely practical.
Amazing. I think in this response, we covered everything from it's real, you can't ignore it. There is how do we think about making it efficient and the right architecture. I think that's where the meat lies about creating a sustainable future with AI. The fast movement, the taking that first step to get into the next universe, building the right foundation. And I can't tell you how exciting this conversation has been. It's a complete privilege and honor to hear from great minds on how you're thinking about AI or how your world is evolving with AI. We got 30 more seconds here. Any questions from the audience? Lovely. On that note, we are at the top of the hour. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming here, listening to us. It was an amazing journey that we took in the last 1.5 hours, and I hope you found this time worthwhile. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you to our panelists for the
Thank you.
Thank you.